Hey, and welcome to my channel. It's Alyssa Shea. I am excited to be here. I'm going to share a little bit of a reading update. We are nearing the end of October, and I want to give you a recap of the books that I read so that either we can A, chat about them, or B, you can get some book recommendations. So let me know in the comments below whether you've read any of these books or whether they're on your TBR. And if you have read them, let me know if your opinion was any different than mine. I have to say, one of these books I think I gave a very controversial rating to, so let me know your thoughts. I'm genuinely open for discussion. If you gave the book a very different rating than me, let me know. I only actually read 3 books this month, so it was a little bit of a slower month for me. I don't read a crazy amount of books every month anyway. I do work full time, I have other things going on, so I'm not one of those people that can read like 10 books in a month. I'm always very impressed by the people that are able to do that, even when they're doing that when they work full time and have like families and other things going on. But what was I saying? Anyway, the first book. Oh, I think I was gonna say that I started a new job this month. So yeah, I started reading. I took a break and then I started reading a book the second week of October, and I've actually loaned it out to my mom, so I do not have it to show you. The other books I do have with me to show you, but the first book was Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I'm pretty positive is the author's name. And this book, honestly, I almost wasn't going to finish reading it after the first chapter. The first chapter was, the humor was a little bit dark to me, and I do not prefer that. So I almost DNF'd this book, but I'm glad that I continued reading because the tone of the first chapter honestly was not like the tone of the whole rest of the book. So again, I'm so happy that I kept reading. I did start reading the book on a plane too, so I was very anxious, and I'm an anxious flyer, and the humor and references were not for me at that specific moment. But basically, the book is about 2 workplace rivals. They work in the ER. They're both ER doctors, and they start writing letters to each other and then eventually end up fake dating. And in the end, I give this book a 4.5. It was so enjoyable. I really liked it, and what I liked most about it was it felt like a really healthy relationship. Sometimes there's books where I'm like, ooh, this character is very toxic in this relationship, but I'm still enjoying reading it regardless. But this one felt very wholesome. It felt healthy and like just a good relationship that if I saw this couple in real life, I'd be so happy for them. And they had a little catchphrase throughout their relationship that I don't want to spoil it because I didn't know what it was going into it. And it was such a delight to like discover. But that specific phrase, and you'll know it when you read it in the book, has stuck with me ever since reading it. It's something that I hope to be able to say about my own relationship. And so I loved that aspect of the book. I also have to say there was a lot of anxiety representation in the book. The main character, I believe his name is Jacob, the main male character, has anxiety, and just reading his story and how he felt and his perspective on things and why he operated the way he did because of his anxiety, that I really resonated with. And I haven't necessarily read anything else similar to his character, so I thoroughly enjoyed that. It made me feel less alone, and I feel like that is a wonderful feeling to walk away from a book with. So if you know of any other books with a lot of anxiety representation and with maybe a main character where they're struggling with anxiety and maybe you felt seen by them, let me know because I'd love to read more books like that. So yeah, Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, 4.5. And The next book I read was a little bit different. It's Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I don't have the book jacket on here for some reason. I need to find that. But this is actually very cool too when you take off the book jacket. But this book is getting so much hype right now. It's been all over socials. I feel like people are talking about it. And so obviously I wanted to read it. I felt like it was going to be similar to, not similar to, but because I really enjoyed Fourth Wing, and that was a little bit different than what I normally read, being fantasy-esque, I thought, well, this is another kind of YA fantasy romance novel. So I thought, you know, because I enjoyed Fourth Wing, I wanted to try something else in that category. And again, if you have other books in that category that you recommend, leave them down below. I'd love to hear. But this book, I would honestly give like a 3.5. And I know that sounds harsh because I know a lot of people feel like this book is like 5 stars. But for me, and I did rank Fourth Wing as 5-star, but this was not the same for me. It took me quite a while to get into the book. I kept reading because I was like, okay, like I knew I hadn't gotten to the punchline yet, so I was like, I gotta keep going. But it felt like a lot of buildup and it was pretty slow for me. And the storyline with the gods and all the backstory about the gods and the history there felt very outside of my comfort zone. And again, it didn't like capture me a whole ton. So that part felt slow with the buildup. I will say when the romance started building, I was very invested in the couple. And I still am invested in the couple and I love them together. But I feel like when the romance really started developing, the book started to get really dark. It's set in a war, which I guess I didn't explain. So if you have not read this book or know what it's about, it's also about 2 workplace rivals, which is pretty funny. They work for a newspaper and it is set during a time period where there is a war between 2 gods, and she ends up having like a magical typewriter and she thinks she's writing to her brother, but the letters end up going to her workplace rival. And so then the romance develops from there. Yeah, once the romance really started brewing, I feel like the war was getting very negative and very heavy. And I guess, again, a common theme here, really like heavy, dark topics weigh on me and I'm very sensitive to that. And so it almost felt like too much for me to be reading that. I kind of felt like beat up after I finished reading this book, to be honest. I was like, man, this wrecked me, but not in like the emotional way where it's like good wrecked you. It's like, oh, that took it out of me. And yeah, there was another really negative twist towards the end, I felt like. And I'm really trying not to give any spoilers. But yeah, just there was some negative stuff going on and I was upset about it. And yeah, I am going to read the sequel that comes out. I think it comes out in December, and I am excited about it because I need some joy in these people's lives. So I'm hoping that there is some good that comes out of the sequel. But yeah, those are just kind of some of my thoughts on this. Let me know if that makes any sense. And then, so we went 4.5, 3, 3.5. The third book that I read this month was a 5-star. And honestly, it may be my favorite book I've ever read. It's one of my favorite books I've ever read. It's definitely one top 5 books I've ever read. This wrecked me in a good way, like in the best way. And it is The 7-Year Slip. It's so good. It is so good. I kind of like waited to read this book for some odd reason. And even when I started it, I was like, you know, I'm not getting the hype for this one because I know this one's like quite hyped up as well. And I didn't immediately, like, first handful of pages think that it was going to be a 5-star for me, but somewhere along the lines, it hooked me. I was reading this all day, just needing to know what happened. The 7-Year Slip is about a woman whose aunt passes away and she inherits her apartment, and her apartment like time travels. Either 7 years in the past or 7 years in the future, if that makes sense. And so she moves into her aunt's apartment and meets this guy who's subleasing the apartment, but it was 7 years prior. And oh my gosh, just as I kept reading and the way that the storyline and like the love just flows through different times and you see all these interactions weave together, and just like it wrecked me in the best way possible. I smiled at this book. I sobbed at this book. Like I cried at this book. It was just such a dream, and I'm getting emotional talking about it. It's so good. I can't even explain to you. I don't know. You just need to read it. Like their love, it just, there was something wholesome about it again too, where it was like, oh, so pure, so good. Like I don't know, just read it. That was the worst summary description of my feelings, but it got me in all my feels. I just have to say that. So those are the 3 books that I read this month. I don't have a TBR yet for November. The only thing on my schedule is Iron Flame, which comes out, I think, November 8th. I am prepared and ready for that. So yeah, if you guys have book recommendations, I would love to hear them genuinely based on my commentary for these books. So if you have any suggestions, leave them down below. If you're looking for a suggestion for a certain like genre or niche type of romance novel, put that down below. I'll give any recommendations that I have. I just want to get the conversation started, chat about these books, and yeah, I hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Thank you all for watching. I will talk to you later.